Okay, here we go. This is our lecture for Design 350. The recording is on. It's Tuesday the 26th at 11 o'clock, and we are on a Google Meet. And this is week 10, and we're finally going to start project work. And we're going to work on our tiny house project. This is a 2-week project, so it doesn't go on too long. And there's a bunch of work to do, so I'll get looking at it all. So our project is based in Jamul. It's in San Diego County, and there is a property owner that is interested in providing foster youth in the area with affordable shelter. And so they have a property and they have room for one or two or three tiny houses, and they're very interested in doing that. So we're going to look at using that as a use case, a sample for creating the planning documents that would support that. Now, it's your choice as to whether you're going to use Revit or Autocad. My personal belief is Revit is a little bit easier for this level of work. AutoCAD has a lot of intricacies, but if you're used to AutoCAD, you can get it done without too much problem in AutoCAD too. So if you're not really a Revit fan, although I'm going to show you how to do a lot of it, and we've been practicing some of it, I think Revit will probably be the easiest. The YouTube is basically just for our lectures, and I did a lab yesterday on how to read some stuff. I will in lab on Wednesday go over some of the submittals from last week, because there were some places where people were not clear on how to do all the reading. So I'm going to review those and hopefully clear up some of those. But on your reading list, we have a project, and so there's the requirements. We have a location, and we have a purpose. We have some resources in the Google Drive. See if I've got that open yet. Nope. So the AutoCAD resource file has layers and dim styles and title blocks, and you can copy those out of that to put it into your file if you're using AutoCAD. And then there's a Revit file for you to use and the requirements. But also, and this is what I'm going to go over today, I put onto a Jamboard some copies with some notes about what you need to put on each of the sheets. And there's a lot of sheets. There's 14 sheets to do in 2 weeks. That's 7 sheets. That's 1 sheet a day. That's not too bad. And there's about 30 views. So that's 2 or 3 views per day. So I don't think this is too onerous. But there's also a few other things to do. But you've done a lot of research already. So hopefully that research will help you push this along. Not be too bad. So no discussion postings or simulations, but since this is, I'm going to skip over the skill development for just a moment. Since this is a 2-week project, you're going to have an opportunity to collaborate. And this week, it's your 50% progress check. So you should post your project and let somebody next week give you some review and feedback. And next week, I'll give you more information about that. But this week, post your progress check. And it should be about 50% done. If you think you're going to wait until the last week to get it done, that'll be really, really, really hard. Okay. And so also, I'm going to have some amphitheater drawings, plan and 2 sections. Kind of went over that last week. We'll go over that tomorrow also. That will be in lab on Wednesday. So let's take a look. I've got some just good last skill development practice for you. I think I've got this open already. Here it is. And you now have the ability to take the measurement readings directly from the theodolite scope. So this is the rod reading scope on the theodolite. And you can see there's the rod. And remember those 2 little lines that go crosswise. They're called the vertical stadia. Okay, if you count the marks in between there, it actually tells you the elevation. So here I see the distance is 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.8, 0.9. Okay, so it's 0.9 feet, and the stadia ratio is 100. So 0.9 times 100 equals your distance, 90 feet. I could type in 90 feet right there. Isn't that cool? And so your job is to do that for each one of these. Count the distance between the stadia marks, okay, and then multiply by 100. And you do it in feet. So this is 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5 something, 0.5 something times 100. Here's a bigger distance times 100. Here's another distance times 100. So that's how you use this. And look, you don't need to know what the actual elevation is. You can just count, right? So that's the idea, is to go ahead and do those. And it shouldn't take too long. Just getting used to doing those readings. And you don't have to do this type of a marking, but if you choose to, it's kind of cool. Okay, and this should always come out to be about the same. So now you just have to type in what the proper number is. And that makes it real obvious that I know that you know. So you can go ahead and do that. And actually, I didn't get all of the. There's these 2 little arrows here. There, no, I'm catching too much. It's hard to catch these. Well, you can play around with that. You know what to do? Get that thing moved out of the way for a minute. There we go. That thing back in place. There. Now I can go put that on here, here. So if you feel like it, you can do that. It's not necessary, but it would be cool. All right, so that should take you, there's 10 of them to do in a couple of minutes each. So 20, 30 minutes to get this done. And it's just good practice. Okay, we'll keep doing good practice every week. Good practice, good practice. So that's this one right here. Okay, as I said in lab, I'll teach about this. Okay, and we talked about this. And then your submittal this week is a PDF of your sheet set for your planning submittal. And then either the Revit or Autocad file or files. And then I want you to give me a PDF of this PDF of this file. File, download as PDF. So you don't have a template this time. You're just going to be loading up files. Load up files. And be sure to do your weekly certification. So no longer do you really have a submittal template. It's really your file that you're working in. Okay? So there we go. So now at this point, let's go ahead and take a look and see what our progress set should look like. There's, as I said, there's 14 sheets. There's 30 views. You have 2 weeks to get this done. And so your progress this week should really indicate about half of the work is done and ready for markup. So let's take a look. This is very typical of what you would look at the start. This would be like the notes that you make after talking with the client. Right? And this is a land planning submittal package. Land planning submittal package. Okay, so remember, with land planning, certain things have to be really technically correct. Some of them are just providing visualizations and ideas. Okay, so here's the background, and we've talked about this. You should have plenty of information to back this up with. So part of having this is when you put this forward, you want to make sure that you have the information that backs this up. Right? So here's a statement. Nationwide, foster youth face a high risk of shelter insecurity when they time out or emancipate from the foster youth system. So that's a statement, and to really do your job well, you will have information that backs that up. You'll have data or a well-known source that we can rely on. But we know that there's an avenue for property owners to help alleviate the problem. If they can provide safe, secure, and private housing with a relatively minor investment in their property. And what is that avenue now? It's called SB 9, plus a bunch of others, that allows you to put accessory dwellings on your property. Now, it could be that the property owner wants to use a tiny house that's portable. Maybe that they want to put a small accessory dwelling. Could be that they want to actually split their lot and put in a more complex dwelling. Okay, but we know that there are avenues for the property owners. And again, you should take a small amount of time to gather your backup evidence for this. Okay, and you don't have to do sites and notes and things like that, but they should be in some sort of a folder where you can easily get to it. So if somebody goes, really? Show me. Really? Prove it. You can. So that's our background. Okay, now we know that code compliance is important. Without code compliance, property work is not good. It can be a problem. Matter of fact, I have for you an opportunity if you'd like to do a quick drawing. Somebody who came and says, oh, he bought a property and it's out of code compliance and he has to make all sorts of changes. And many property owners just aren't aware of the code compliance requirements, and particularly in accompanying social housing support like foster youth. But even if you're just putting up a rental, you've got local, state, and federal codes apply. So you've got local zoning codes, state rental codes, and federal fair housing codes. Now, where does the federal fair housing code come in? Well, if you're renting to foster youth, there is a good chance that they are going to be getting some sort of federal assistance. And if that's the case, Fair Housing Act applies. If you're just, renting to somebody and you've done no valuation or banking or lending through any kind of HUD resources, then fair housing codes don't actually apply. You just have to work with the state and local codes. But we're going to prepare for the case that the renter may bring with them federal fair housing code compliance requirements. And we've talked about these, so you should have some information backing you up that helps this. So you can be putting comments over here. You can be just adding more information into here. But this is for you. You can make a copy of this. You will make a copy of it and start putting your notes in here. And you can go back to what you've already gotten and work with it. So since we know that this project is based on foster youth and shelter insecurity, we're going to want to make sure that the owner understands and knows about foster youth support organizations and how they might properly support foster youth as they navigate out of their minority years up through 18 and into an adult system. And we realize that this independence is complex and unique for each individual. Whether you're a foster youth or not, it's complex and unique for each individual, but that can certainly be part of the complexity, right? And proper reliance on well-supported systems is just good process. If you're making it up on your own and as you go, you're likely to miss many of the basic best practices that are based on long experience and lots of things that have gone wrong for other people. So things have been put in place to alleviate that and avoid it. It's very difficult to know everything about complex and unique situations when you're brand new to it. So you're going to want to rely, our clients are going to want to rely on established support systems. So we should be able to provide for our client information about the Foster Youth Transition Housing Coordinator, access to State Department of Social Services to find out how to integrate with their work if you want to be providing shelter, local education institutions to find out again what their support systems are like, local health institutions, and there's many, 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 many more. Okay, so these are foster youth support organizations. There's a lot of good nonprofit organizations that you can coordinate with also. So we want to be able to provide some of this information with our land planning packet so that the planners know that this is not a scam, it's well thought out, it's sustainable, things like that. So this is part of all of that good setting up that land planning requires. Now we're going to go into what's actually the proposal and the documents that we need to put together so that a client can take it to the planning department. Okay, so here's the proposal. There's a property owner, and actually we have a number of them, but one of them is in Hamul. So this is real world. We're doing it as educational, and we're not doing a full project and all that kind of stuff, but this is real world, and our results will help inform the team that is making the actual proposal. And they want to provide housing security to foster youth. That's their goal, housing security. Okay, so all the other things that come along with supporting foster youth are probably going to come along with this providing housing security, but that is the main goal. And they want to do it for foster youth that are, quote, local, which we include as same county. Well, San Diego County is big. And Hamul is sort of on the eastern reaches of it, and it's considered rural compared to San Diego proper. So that's got some impact in itself, but the goal is going to be foster youth in San Diego County, and they want to provide housing security, something as their residence. The property already has one existing residence on it, and the owner wants to provide 1, 2, or 3 tiny houses for rent to foster youth and or others. They've found that integrating with a diverse population is really a cool thing. So this may not just be, a tiny house for a foster youth. It could be tiny house for a foster youth and then some young professionals or students or whatever. Okay, but there will be at least for one foster youth who is emancipated or in the extended service portion of the foster youth program. And you saw about that, how the foster youth can extend services through until they're 21 years old. And the goal is low-cost housing and education support. Now, by that, they really mean access, easy access to education, which means strong Wi-Fi and access to a local community college, libraries, things like that, to a qualified foster youth. And so that means it's somebody who is technically emancipating from the program or soon to emancipate from the program. Okay, so that's the project proposal. It's pretty basic, needs a lot of details to make it come to fruition, but the land planning portion of it is held all within that. So what are you going to put in your proposal packet? You're going to start with a letter. Actually, this you'll probably do next week. Okay. But a letter of intent based on local foster youth data. And what we would hope is that you can create a template for the client to fill in the blanks. And we'll talk about that more as we go along. And that letter should identify what local services are available and what local services are lacking. Both of those things are very important. Okay? Identify local foster youth organization contacts and hopefully get their letters of support from them too. For sure, the transition housing coordinator, and then list a couple of others. You should identify similar projects that have been approved locally to this area. And here's a biggie. Provide evidence of ability to sustain the project for a minimum of 5 years. So what they don't want is some planning that it's done in a year and then the project will change. So there needs to be money to cover things for 5 years. Should it not be rented? If there's transportation issues, those need to be projected out for 5 years. There needs to be something about how long the youth can stay there and how to replenish if it's not going to be 5 years. So this sustainability for 5 years will be interesting. Okay, then letters of support. And again, you should create a template for the client to give to the other principals. Now, who are the principals? Well, for sure the owner. For sure you as the land planner. If there is banking involved, you would need a letter from the bank. If you've got the transition housing coordinator involved, you would need a letter from them. And in that letter, it would be a letter of support and their experience with foster youth. Someone in there needs to have some experience. Someone. It could be that it's just the housing coordinator. But the more experience with foster youth, the more likely the land planning group is going to approve it. I don't know why that is there. And then provide intent, so a sample of any rental agreements and CC&Rs that will either be made or that already exists and that will be required of any renter. So if there are CC&Rs on the property that already exist, you need to review those and or pretend that you've done so and list them. And if there are special conditions in the rental agreement, it might just be, oh, well, here's the standard California template, and we're just going to go by that. But if there's anything else, you'll want to be able to provide that. So there's this letter of thought. So there's a letter of intent, there's letter, and this should be letters of support. And then you've got your land planning proposal packet, which are 14 sheets. So these you can be working on as you go. We're going to be providing you some more information about those, but it'd be nice to see what you guys come up with as some samples. You can actually Google these samples to see what they look like, but I'll give you much more detailed information next week on those. And then the land planning proposal packet, these 14 sheets, I've got information for that. So what is the schedule? The project is due for submittal in 2 weeks. So that's all of this stuff is due in 2 weeks. And we want a 50% progress check after 1 week. And that's really a 50% on the proposal packet. 7 sheets completed. Okay, so let's take a look and see what those sheets look like. I've got them up here on this Jamboard for you to review. You can go in here. I think I've got it where anybody can, maybe it's anybody can view. Yep, you can all view this. So here's sheet 1. The basic project proposal. This shouldn't take you too long. San Diego County map. And then you put a little shaded region on Hamul and you identify it. And then you've got a Hamul area map. So you'll focus in on Hamul and make a little shaded region where the vicinity is, the site. And then you'll go to the site. Now the site is 2491, where is it? 2941 Pioneer Way. Let's just take a look and see where that is. So what you see here is basically the site. So you would identify where this site is on Hamul, California. So where is Hamul? That's kind of Hamul. So on your county map, you would trace an area that looks kind of like this, and you would hatch it, and you would call it Hamul. And then on your Hamul map, you would zoom in on the site and put a little filled region there. And then you would put in the site plan. Now this one can just be traced. We don't know exactly where it is, but you can just trace it. And you're going to see that our property that I've done looks pretty close to what we've got here. So it's not far off. Okay. So those three maps, and then the project data. The project data is the address, the square feet, the zoning, the owner, the short little brief introduction to what the project plan is, right? And a little bit about the foster youth. So, whoops. So that all is going to go in here. Okay. So that's your sheet 1. 20, 30 minutes, 20, 30 minutes, 20, 30 minutes, right? So that's maybe an hour or two. The next one, this just pops up for you. This should take you no time at all. That would be to add a sheet list and a view list. Yours might look different. I just took some sample ones as I was putting it in here. And then just a view for general notes and symbols. Now, do note, I want you to see something. On here, see that there's no scale under here? Where scale is not needed, like this one, I want you to go in and remove that from the view marker. I'll show you how to do that. But there's no reason to have a scale on this view marker. Same with here. There should be no scale here. So this one's just quick. This is a 5 or a 10-minute page to be able to make your sheet list, your view list, and your general notes and assemblies. I think most of you already know how to do that. You've had plenty of Revit to know how to do that. If you don't, I'll make a little video for you. Now we're getting into the proposed use case. So the project zoning, you should have existing zoning and any future zoning. That all goes here. What are similar projects? What are the project utility requirements? These are all things that you can figure out from the land planning. Where are the local services? That's where you would come on here and you would say, Mool, California, and you would search nearby restaurants. Okay, so there's nearby restaurants. Schools. There's nearby schools. barber shops. Man, not much in Hamul. You got a ways to go to get to a barber shop. Let's see what it comes up with for healthcare. So look, healthcare, you got a ways to go to get to healthcare. Groceries. Same with groceries. Okay, so you want to look at these things, and you need to put them down and kind of figure out like how long it would take to get there and things like that. So that's an important part. You also want to map where similar projects might be, and you may or may not have good information on that. And then these are the project utility requirements, and these are what's already there. So you can do a quick comparison to these. So this little use case is really important to the land planners to just get that first gut check. Is this a viable project? Now you've got your compliance statements. Somewhere in here, sometimes these are done on letters, and you got a stack of letters, and sometimes they're just right here. But this is your compliance of your zoning with your built area. So you'll just fill all this in and leave a spot for the applicant to sign. Zoning property use. You'll look up the current property use, what it's zoned for, and what your proposed use is, and if needed, if there's a proposed variance. Go over this a little bit, but Leah has some information for us on the zoning, or at least where to look it up. Okay, this project does or does not expect to use federal funding. And regardless of that, you want to list the components of affirmatively furthering fair housing that are met by this project, because the land planners may want to do that, may want to note that this does, whether it's required or not, and then you'll either do a not applicable or a signature. And this isn't really SACOG. You need to put in the Regional Council of Governments for San Diego. It's probably CDACOG, or San Diego Council of Regional Governments. And you can see if it's going to utilize some of their funding. Okay, and if so, which ones are met by that? This one's like, wow, maybe there's a big push from SACOG to do this type of work, and you can jump in on some funding. CC&Rs. List all CC&Rs that apply to the site. So we don't really have access to that, so this is going to be left blank. And remember, you have to get rid of all of these little scale things. Now, this is all in the template. It's all there for you. You just have to go to the view and fill it out. And then there might be local commissions that are required for review. Tree Commission, Historical Commission, Mixed Use Commission, whatever type of commissions might have some jurisdiction in this area, you're going to want to list those so that the planners know that you're doing all of your due diligence, and that you can get letters from them and things like that. So this one's got a lot on it, but it's just setting a template for you. Existing site plan, you know how to do a site plan now, and you know how to do a 3D view. And the let's see if this bonked me out. I'll go and take a look at it. It's all in there. The 3D view is there for you, so you can create these plans very quickly and easily. So if I go open this thing, there's what's called the base file. And look, everything's kind of there for you. I've set up the template for you. So you just have to put the work in. There might be a few of these sheets that aren't in here, but I think I've got them all. So look, here's all the drafting views. They're already there. And these views, there's your site plan existing. So you may have to create some new floor plan views to do your job. Like here's that existing site plan we were just looking at. You can create a new view. And I don't know what that was called. Site plan, existing site. Right? And then you can just start doing the good work that you know about. Right? You can put property lines in. You can just start sketching your property lines. And you'll be more careful than what I'm doing right now. Right? Those would be arcs. There you go. You can hide that in view. And you've got your properties, right? So there's your property. And if you want elevations at these points, you can put them in. So all of a sudden, that's how existing site plan. And my scale is off a little bit. Maybe because I'm going to want a 3D view up here. But that's how you're going to do this. Okay, so now I'm going to close that without saving it because I really want to do these demos at another point. But I'm just giving you an idea. You'll put in elevations, building pads, simple site, property lines, elevations, and then a 3D view. Topo plan view and a drainage plan. You've worked with those before. And now this is your proposed site plan. So it was pretty much like the other one, but now you're going to show how do people get on and off, where's the new building going to be, where's parking, where are you going to put utilities and sub-metering locations, how are you going to get all that done? So this is the big deal right here. And it's just, region views. We'll go into how to do those. Stormwater pollution prevention plan during construction and when completed. I can see that maybe there needs to be some swales or some infiltration trenches or something like that because there's a lot of slope to this site. Final topo and drainage plan. Now, you had hookups, but now we want to know where water utilities will be placed, invert and evert for cold water, sanitary drain. We will be using what's called point of use for hot water. We'll talk about that a little bit. Okay, and now we want sub-metering panels for the amps, volts, phase of each line, special lines for any pumps, AC, heating. And this is a proposal, so it's not a full Revit model. You're just drawing some lines to show where you're considering things will be. And then the mechanical. Where will pumps, motors, AC units, all of their hookups, where are those things going to be? Okay, now there's some detail sheets. Okay, tiny house floor plan. Okay, trace a tiny house floor plan just to give them an example of what one would look like. And remember, you can't just cut and paste the image. These are all over the web, and it should take you maybe 15 or 20 minutes to trace that floor plan in. And then one for a trailer. Find a trailer that's about the same length as your tiny house and just do a tracing of it. Those are 2 detail sheets. Tiny house foundation detail. Isn't that weird? Tiny houses often will need, even if they're on wheels, some sort of foundation. You don't just leave them sitting there on 1 jack and 2 wheels or 4 wheels. So there's lots of interesting items out there for you to look at for tiny house foundation details, and then a tiny house plumbing plan. These are all just lookups on the web, and there is no number 15. I don't know why that one's on here. See if I can delete that last sheet. There we are. There's 14 sheets. Now those all those sheets I think exist in here. So you're just looking to find the right detail to draw in. So example, if you want to draw this tiny house foundation detail, there it is right there. Click on it, put your image in here. There's no scale, it's just a detail. And just show an example tiny house floor plan. Pop the image in here, trace it, and it will just show up for you. You don't even have to do anything, right? It'll just show up here. Let me show you what I mean by that. Let's say I do have an image in here, and I'm going to draw my tiny house, and I'm doing that, and I'm going to put some sort of little bathroom-like thing here, and I'm going to put a little kitchen-like thing here, and a refrigerator right here, and some sort of a door. And I need a bed. Let me move this wall here, and I'm going to put my bed in. Small single bed. And I can show that as my shower. And so you see how it goes, right? And you're going to trace one. You don't even have to make it up. You'll put one in and trace it. And voila, it shows up, right? So I've cut out a lot of the excess work for you. And you'd put some labels in and things like that. Yep.
Sorry, quick question. So as far as that, so there's the floor plans in each one, or the what do you call it, like the files in each one. So you draw it like you did just there, and that will go in that particular window.
Yep.
And so it already has the what do you call it?
Yeah, the detail views are already set up. All these drafting views are already set up. So you'll look, oh, tiny house floor plan. There it is, tiny house floor plan. Double click and you're in the view. And you just have to draw inside this box. So this
and then once you draw inside the box, how do you get back to that sheet?
The sheets are all listed down here too. They're already here.
Okay, so then you just click on that sheet and it'll already show it in there.
Yep.
Okay.
Isn't that cool?
That's neat.
And this is actually how large projects are often done. So, um, this is a land planning class, not how do I draw in Revit class. So I'm trying to sort of eliminate some of that. Um, and so really you just get to kind of look all this over, right? So when you do like your map, here's your Hamul area map, right? Take a snip of your thing and put it in here and just draw your, maybe this is going to be my Hamul and I'll put in some roads. Maybe there's a road that comes in through here and a road that you know how that goes, right? And so that's going to end up being on your project. There's your Hamul area.
That's awesome. So how do you get to the sheet? Like, what do you open up first when you go to Revit? When you open up Revit, or do you have to go to another file first in order for it to
Yeah,
be there?
yeah, you'll have to actually download. It's called this base file,
Okay.
Project One base file, and I've got links to it all over the place.
Okay, perfect.
So the link you'll find. Um, that one's just that one. Here it is, Revit option. There it is right there. So there's the Revit option for the base file. And I think I've got it. Here's the other place to get it. Workbook samples. Cool, huh? I just tell me I am the nicest instructor you've ever seen because I did all this setup for you.
It makes it really helpful.
But
Makes it,
the goal is for you to kind of get some experience and understand what a full project proposal would be and to have this template already there for you. I tell you the truth, I would keep this template sort of off to the side and make a copy of it because if you ever need to do a land planning thing, you can pull this up and it's at least something to start with and a lot of your stuff is already there.
yeah, no, it makes it really helpful. I thought there was a question I was going to ask and I completely forgot. All right, if I remember, I'll ask
Okay.
you.
Okay. Yep. And I jumped in and showed you how to do some stuff. So hopefully that question will come back.
I remembered.
Okay.
So I know how to insert an item or like a picture into AutoCAD to be able to trace that and draw it and everything for like the area map or things like that. What about in Revit? Is it the same way?
Same
Can
way.
you just insert it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me do one. Um, now it could be that it needs to have this saved as an image. So I don't think I can just cut and paste. Let's see. It doesn't let me just cut and paste. But since I saved it as an image, I can insert an image. And now you can just copy right over it. One thing to note is you want to click on it and click this little pin because otherwise it can accidentally get moved around. But when it's pinned, it's stuck there. So that's good.
Okay, and then does it automatically go to the size that that box is, or do you have to change that size?
You might have to change that size, but if you do, you just click on it and type in the width that you want right there.
Okay. Okay.
So click and change the width.
Okay. Perfect.
Cool. All right. This is a cool project, I'm telling you. Um and this little setup here, we will use this setup over and over and over again. Although, the names are probably going to change, right? Cuz the next one won't be tiny house and stuff like that, but a lot of it will remain the same. Okay, any other questions before I stop the recording? All right.
I think it was helpful. Thank you.
Cool. Then